rules of the mock draft. What they do agree on is Josh Rosen. And interestingly enough, both of you have Josh headed to the Jets. Let's talk about why, and then perhaps what would make him a good fit there. Mel, I'll talk with you.
Well, I have him as the third best quarterback in the draft. And I think when you look at the Jets, they gave up 3 starters, 2 seconds this year and a second next year to go from 6 to 3. That's a hefty price to pay when you're getting the third best quarterback. Now, maybe on their board it might be the second best quarterback or their number 1 quarterback, depending on how they rate Josh Rosen. But I think he will be the quarterback, Todd, that drops to 3. I think he'll be there for the Jets. They obviously need him. They say he's everybody NFL ready. Well, they have Josh McCown and they have Teddy Bridgewater. So there are quarterbacks in place to maybe allow him some time. Still coming from UCLA, coming off a concussion protocol, 32 days, not available for their bowl game. Did not play the full season 2 years ago. Missed half the season with a shoulder injury. So we talk about all the comments that Jim Mora made and how we've talked about since then and about Josh Rosen through the process. Durability is something that you have to think about with Josh Rosen. 2 straight years, shoulder, then the concussion, have kept him in a position now where there's some concern about that.
Yeah, listen, Josh Rosen is an acquired taste, and you have to have people around him that can challenge him mentally. I really believe that. He is so intelligent, and he wants, as you heard before, he wants to know why. And that can be a great thing. And a lot of the top quarterbacks in the NFL are that way, too. If you're going to tell them to do something, they want to know why. And then they've got to understand it and say, you know what, okay, that makes sense to me, now let's go do it. I thought for Jim Moore to come out and say those things, it didn't sit very well with me, and it just screams of being disappointed with what happened over the last 3 years at UCLA, not supporting his guy. Ultimately, it needs to be the right fit for Rosen, but I think if Rosen winds up in a place where he's challenged mentally and he's in a system with some guys around him that can protect him because he's not overly mobile and he does have durability issues, but if he's got some pieces around him, this guy can be great. He processes information faster than any quarterback in this draft, and he's the best just pure passer inside the pocket in this class.
Real quick, well, the one thing we always seem to do when we get into these debates is get a lot of hate on somebody. And you think it's all,
and we pile on.
And it's negative, and Josh Rosen could be the 3rd pick in the draft. We were talking after the crosstown rivalry game against USC and Sam Darnold. We both left that game, did SportsCenter Live after that, and said, hey, Rosen outplayed Sam Darnold. He looked like the better quarterback on the same field that evening, that game, that rivalry game. So Josh Rosen has a lot of ability. Like Joe Flacco, he may not be all just about football. Who knows? Joe Flacco's had a successful career. He's got a Super Bowl ring. He may not be the first one in the building, last one out.
Aaron Rodgers isn't 100% about football. He has other interests.
And perhaps that makes you better. You know, and I would say this. I understand that there may be some frustrations, and from a coaching standpoint, it can grow tiresome, but I don't think it should be an automatic negative that someone's intellectually curious. You know, we can't have it both ways. We've often criticized players for not asking questions, and then this kid does, and suddenly it's a huge problem. Let me ask you about Baker Mayfield, because there is some disagreement there. 5? You have him at 5? And so tell me why, and then Todd, we'll talk about what you think Denver would do. Because it's an entirely different situation for the two of you.
All right, first I'll start, Todd, since you projected the trades. I'll let you get into more detail about that. But I think when you look at Baker, 6'1.5" is not changing. We know what he did in college. He was a great player. He goes to Denver. Case Keenum had 1 year. He was plus 15 touchdown interception ratio. Up until this year, he was plus 4. So he had that 1 year. Is he a one-year wonder? Everything was in place in Minnesota. Now he's in Denver. Do you feel like, okay, if he's great, we're happy. We got Baker Mayfield, but we're still happy because Case Keenum's doing great and he can't win the job. If Case Keenum is just decent to average in that area, then maybe you get the big upgrade with Baker Mayfield. Not in year 1. This is Case Keenum's team. But maybe year 2, year 3, you get that big upgrade, just like they tried to do with him. They brought Cousins in hopefully to get an upgrade. Maybe Baker Mayfield's not only an upgrade, he's your upgrade in year 2, year 3, and he's your future. And John Elway and that coaching staff at Denver had him in Mobile Senior Bowl week. And Baker Mayfield at 5 over, say, a Bradley Chubb, I think would be something they have to consider.
Listen, it wouldn't shock me at all. I've heard, actually, that people in that organization are pounding the table for Baker Mayfield and think that he can be the guy. So that won't shock me at all. I just looked at it. You got John Elway, who built this organization on pass rushers and defensive front, and they were ferocious on that side of the ball. And offensively, they were just okay. But the defense won it and got him there and really was the core. You get Bradley Chubb. You can argue second, third best player in this entire draft. and you just paid a quarterback to come in and play, to me that makes more sense. But it won't shock me. And I've heard Miami has a lot of interest in him as well. And so if he gets to 6 or past that point, Miami could be a team to watch out where you're not paying a ton of compensation to move up, just maybe a third-round pick, move up a couple spots, and go get Mayfield before another team leapfrogs you at 11 and goes and gets him.
Mel, you talked about a player that we sometimes pile on. There's one every year. There's also one every year that's sort of volatile, you know, that moves up, that moves back, that we sort of change our opinion on. And I think this year, for me, early on at least, it seems to be Lamar Jackson. For a variety of different reasons. But now in this particular mock draft, you have him going from 15 to 22.
Yeah.
But still in the first round, Mel, and still as a quarterback, which we know is extremely important to Lamar Jackson.
Yes, critical to Lamar Jackson. It's the only thing he wants right now is to be a quarterback. He said, hey, I'm not working out as a wide receiver. I'm not even going to run a 40, which I thought was a mistake at the pro day and the combine, not to run a 40. That to me is a little defiant. But I think when you look at Lamar Jackson, I thought his pro day was pretty good. He had some errant throws, which he's going to do. But I thought the arm strength, I thought his accuracy was better than people thought. We know how competitive he is. We know what a fear factor player is. And what he's got to do, learn, hey, when there's defenders in the area, veer out of bounds. Don't take hits. If he can be that quarterback, 2-3, he's not going to be the guy right away wherever he goes. We know that. He has to be developed high. But with his skill set, we talk about Mike Vick. Michael Vick went #1. We're talking about 22 here for Lamar Jackson as a developmental quarterback who comes into the league. He's got, you talk about chips on your shoulder, he's got a major league chip on his shoulder.
Residing squarely on his shoulder, I would agree.
None of this matters. None of this, running a 40, not running a 40, all this stuff that we talk about because we're caught up in the moment, and I get it, none of this matters. At the end of the day, there has to be one team in the first round that says, you know what, we can win with this guy. This guy's the most electrifying player in college football the last 2 years with the ball in his hand. So let's do what Bill O'Brien did, and they're not the same player. But let's do what Bill O'Brien did, and let's change things offensively to go all in on a guy. And when it's his turn, when he's ready to play, for whatever reason, we have the offense in place. Now, if you're going to do that, you better have a darn good backup, and you better have a backup that can come in and play in a similar offensive system to what you're doing. We saw this year, when Deshaun Watson went down, it was over. It was absolutely over. So you've got to have a great backup because this guy is going to run a little bit more than you probably want. It's just in his nature, and it's what he does best right now. And so if he does that with that slight frame, it's going to be hard to stay healthy in the NFL because at 210, you're doing a lot of the same things that Cam Newton's doing at 255 pounds, and Cam even gets banged up.
Is there a scenario, and there almost always is, but in what scenario, I should say, can Lamar Jackson fall out of the first round?
It could happen, Wendy. I mean, he's no guarantee. I think we have a hunch that somebody's going to either trade in or somebody like Jacksonville, as you mentioned, Todd, Arizona, Buffalo, I think could be if Buffalo doesn't move up like you suggest. I just think Lamar Jackson, when you think about this year at Louisville, he lost 3 of his top 4 receivers. He lost his top running back.
They were garbage around him.
And he didn't have a lot. Jaron Christian's a heck of a player, the offensive lineman, but I think you look at a guy like Lamar Jackson, the competitive desire to excel on a football field and be a leader and win, he has that. Can he develop 3? Like I said, if you bring him in, you better spend. Aaron Rodgers sat for 3 years. I think Lamar Jackson has to sit for 2 or 3 years and just sit, watch, and learn, and work with that quarterback coach, work all year diligently to become a more accurate, precise passer, understand the nuances of the game, reading defenses, all the things that need to be done at the pro level that didn't have to be done necessarily at
and
Louisville
maybe you can
college.
put him in a short yardage, goal line situation and utilize his mobility early on in just a small little package.
Yep.
You know, no quarterback, no young quarterback wants to hear that, but it can extend a career. You know, it can pay so many dividends to sit and learn from the very best that are playing. Listen, have you guys played mock draft? Well, I don't know that I've played mock draft
Never.
bingo. No. You
wait.
can't wait?
Can't wait.
Listen, it's happening. That's,
Really?
I heard Brewski likes to fudge the numbers a little bit.
No, there is no cheating. Next.